This program airs statewide on California Public Television and is a California's Gold classic. This series is endorsed by the California Teachers Association, the California School Boards Association, and the California Library Association.
Hi, I'm Huell, and right now I'm riding high up over the beach here in Santa Cruz, one of our state's most beautiful and historic communities. Now we're going to be hanging out here in Santa Cruz, kind of checking this place out for the next couple of days. We've just gotten here, but already I know we're going to be spending a lot of time down there on the beach. We're also going to be spending a lot of time down here on the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. There are all kind of fun things to do here. We're going to have a lot of fun on this trip, and you're invited to come along as we continue our search, this time in Santa Cruz, for California's gold.
Now, just about everybody likes to go to a good amusement park, especially if it's located right on a sunny, beautiful beach. But when you visit the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, you're not only going to have a good time, you're going to be part of history. You see, the grand old boardwalk first opened up back in the early 1900s with a pavilion and a casino, and quickly became a big hit. The fact that the boardwalk's original Neptune casino burned to the ground back in 1906 didn't seem to slow things down a bit. In fact, over the years, it grew in popularity, with all kinds of neat rides, and the opening of the Coconut Grove, which had big dances to the tunes of big bands. Today, the boardwalk is as popular as ever, and now it's the only major oceanside amusement park left on the West Coast. Set on a mile-long sandy beach, it's been designated a California historic landmark. You know, Ann, I'm not sure exactly what I'd expected, but coming here to this boardwalk is like going back in time.
It's like time traveling, isn't it? The nostalgia appeal is very, very strong. And I think that certainly is one of the reasons that this park has lasted when so many others on the West Coast have gone under. There are other reasons, of course, but the nostalgia of bringing your family back, your children, your grandchildren, is very strong.
Now, is this pretty much the way it was back when it originally opened?
A lot of changes. You know, it originally opened in 1907. There was only really one ride, and during the years there have been different games here and so on, and we keep updating. The 1911 Carousel is the oldest ride we have here, and then the 1924 Giant Dipper. And we have brand new rides too, but the sense of the park, I think, is the same. That sense of somewhere to come and have fun. It's an innocent kind of fun. It's silly, it's wild, it's a little weird, and it's great, and it's free.
And it's very family-oriented, too, because when you look around, well, we're right out here on the beach. That's part of the appeal, isn't it? That you can go swimming, or, well, I don't guess you go swimming up here up north, do you? Go to the beach.
The hardy people do, but, you know, the fact that you can come and just walk straight through and go to the beach for the day and maybe ride one ride means that you can, you know, you have a lot of leeway on the kind of day you have. It gives people a lot of fun.
Well, there's definitely plenty to do on the boardwalk, and plenty of food, too. Everything from hot dogs on a stick to chicken in a basket to corn on the cob. Of course, one of my favorites was the soft ice cream cone dipped in chocolate. This was my first one. But when you visit this boardwalk, you just gotta stop by Marini's. You see, their little shop has become a fixture here, 'cause for 4 generations now, they've been turning out the best saltwater taffy in town.
Now, what's the deal here? He's got the taffy up there.
Yeah, he's got a, we don't have a batch roller. They make a roller, but we want to do it slow because we want the people to see it all the time. So we make it this way.
And it just feeds right into the machine.
Feeds into the machine.
Goes around there.
Gives it, cuts it and twists it.
And shoots it out here at the bottom.
And shoots it out at the bottom.
And this is the real authentic stuff.
That's it.
That machine's been cranking it out. Just the sound of that machine alone is the boardwalk. When we've considered updating it, you know, there's equipment that'll do 1,500 a minute. That does 140 a minute. But we need to keep that machine going all day long. That's the boardwalk.
So the people like to come and not only buy the taffy, but hear and see the old machine.
Show it to their kids. They bring their kids up. Just a few minutes ago, holding their kids up to see the machine clanking away.
Now here we are at the taffy stand, and what are you doing here today?
Well, we're showing our kids how they make the taffy and wrap the taffy.
Now, did you used to come here as a kid?
Sure did, about 25 years ago.
So this brings back a lot of memories for you.
Sure does.
What do you think this taffy place means to Santa Cruz and to the boardwalk and all of that?
Well, I think this was one of the main attractions, even when I was a kid, just to come and see the taffy being made.
Oh, so you like to watch it being made?
Sure.
Now, has she seen it being made today?
Just now.
Uh-huh. And what did she think?
What'd you think of it? She likes eating it.
Well, after filling up on Marini's historic taffy, it was time to take my first ride. And what better way to start things off than on the good old merry-go-round? But I quickly learned that the merry-go-round on this boardwalk was very special.
It came here first in 1911, brand new. Charles Loop was the carver. He's probably one of the top 3 or 4 carvers that ever lived. And all these horses are hand-carved, they're all wooden, and there's 73 of them. Came here in 1911, and the entire ride cost $18,000 back then, which was a lot of money, obviously.
Now, these horses were all hand-carved.
All hand-carved, and they're all a little bit different. You can see the expressions. Some of them have their mouths open, some are closed, some seem to be smiling. Luke was very well known for his very expressive animals, you know, and also they're real muscular, you know, the big chunky horses.
Now, has this, I keep wanting to call it a merry-go-round, but has this carousel been in operation continuously?
Yes,
since the boardwalk opened?
Since 1911. And it's either carousel or merry-go-round, or in England, roundabout. They're all correct. Don't worry about that. You know, but yes, it has been. We estimate that somewhere over, probably 50 million people have ridden on it.
How many?
Probably about 50 million. We don't keep a track, but a lot, really a lot.
Wow.
And it became a National Historic Landmark in 1987. So that adds even an extra little bit of pride for us.
Now, riding the merry-go-round was fun, but to be honest with you, that was kind of small potatoes compared with what was ahead of us. A ride on the Giant Dipper, a huge, imposing wooden roller coaster, which has been a fixture here since 1924. Now, it's also a National Historic Landmark, and when you're at the boardwalk, you have to ride it. So with Ann sitting beside me and Luis, the cameraman, holding on for dear life in the back, we were off.
Now, what's the deal on this roller coaster? This is a historical landmark,
It is.
too.
It's a National Historic Landmark.
Why?
1924. Are you nervous? Riding on a 67-year-old coaster here?
That's sturdy.
Very sturdy, yeah. Stood up
Why
in
is
the
it a
earthquake.
historical landmark?
Well, it's unique, and it's wonderful, and it's...
Oh,
Louie!
Louie!
Put your hands up! Great.
Oh my God.
Looking back on it, it's a little embarrassing to hear yourself yell like that. But trust me, the Giant Dipper will make you yell.
The only power in this entire ride is pulling those trains to the top of that first big 70-foot hill. The rest of it's momentum. The entire thing's momentum.
What do you mean momentum?
Once you get up there, the physics of the ride and the design of the ride just keeps you going. You get lifts on hills and you get pushes down on the dips, and the momentum of the ride simply keeps the trains going the entire rest of the way.
So the machinery isn't making it go?
Nope, that's it. That's it, that first big wheel that pulls you to the top of the first hill. We figure that, oh, somewhere in the vicinity of 38 million people have ridden it since it opened in 1924.
Not only have they ridden it, they have screamed every moment of the way.
They have screamed. Yeah, that's true. It's pretty wild. On this one, there's a hill, there's a turn, there's a dip, there's a rise. Something's happening the whole time, and it happens very fast. The ride runs peak about 55 miles an hour, which is not the fastest, and the 70-foot hill is not the tallest, but it's still one of the best.
Well, slowing things down a bit, we had heard from a lot of people that Santa Cruz is the place to surf on the West Coast. That in fact it was the place where surfing first came to the United States from Hawaii back in the 1880s. Well, as you can see, when we were there, the waves weren't exactly cooperating. In fact, it was kind of sad looking at all those surfers sitting in the ocean waiting to catch a wave, and if one did come along, it was kind of puny. But that's the way it is sometimes during the summer months. And undeterred, we decided to visit the Santa Cruz Surfing Museum, which sits out on Lighthouse Point on West Cliff Drive. Now, this neat little museum traces over 100 years of Santa Cruz surfing history and is filled with memorabilia, stuff like old pictures and old patches and a ceiling full of surfboards. The day we dropped by, we met 4 locals who were some of the founding members back in 1936 of the Santa Cruz Surfing Club, and it turned out they were ready and willing to talk about the good old days. Now, was surfing big back in Santa Cruz then?
Well, when we surfed, there were about, if everyone was out surfing that day, there were about 14 fellas.
Really?
And you made your own board or you didn't surf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you were kind of on the cutting edge of the surfing movement here on the coast.
I think we were the edge.
Yes, there wasn't any surfing prior to that.
What is this barn?
And that's where everybody stored their board.
In a barn?
In a barn.
Originally, yeah.
Well, you know, most people didn't even have a car, you know, to carry their board on, so you had to do something with it. So after this, then we got this board house right down where we had the little clubhouse.
Look how tall that board house had to be.
Well, it was 16 feet high, and it was made specially just to put boards in. This is the kind of board I surfed on, and only surfed on. Yes.
But that thing is huge. How long is that board?
Well, it's not as long as the one that I had in the picture, which was about 16 feet. This board's only about 11 feet long.
But
12 foot 6.
It's hollow inside.
Yeah, it has ribs in it, just like this board here without the top on.
Uh-huh.
And it's all nailed together. And actually, you said, how could we stand to be out in the cold water? Actually, you were out of the water about 2 inches on a board like that. And if the sun was out and beating down pretty good, you had to roll off and get into the water or you get too hot. Really, because we were dry. And if you were a good surfer, you could catch a wave and go as far as it'd take you and not get wet. Just come down, turn around, and go out and catch another one. And in our day, we used to try to see who could get the longest wave, or in other words, stay on the same wave and go the longest distance.
You mean like all the way into shore?
All the way in. Well, see this fellow over here with his mouth open?
Yeah.
He caught a wave out here and went all the way into the wharf entrance.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the longest ride anyone has ever gotten out here.
Yeah, what was your reputation back then? What was the surfer reputation?
Not too good, because we'd cut school if the surf was up, you know, and we really, and the surfers today have the same sort of a reputation, you know.
I think really what it is the thing that's been constant all the way through it, that surfers are a little different than anybody else. Mm-hmm. Because they want to meet that challenge, and so they say, well, by golly, and nothing else makes any difference to them. Now you have young fellas that fashion their whole life around riding a wave.
And what about these young surfers? The ones carrying on the proud Santa Cruz surfing tradition started years ago. Well, we didn't have to go far, because right outside the museum, you're looking at Steamer Lane, one of the most famous surfing spots in the entire world. Your board weighs how much?
About 8 pounds.
And how much did yours weigh?
85.
Well, you see,
Have you ever surfed on a heavy board like
Yeah,
that?
I have. Every once in a while I go longboarding, you know. It's good to get back into the old tradition of things.
Yeah.
Get a sense of what things used to be like and what they're like now.
Okay, now we're going to follow you down here, and you're the only surfer who showed up today.
Yeah, I like surfing alone sometimes.
You like surfing alone. Okay, we'll follow you. We'll watch you go down. There he goes, right off the edge of the cliff. Wow. There he goes. The lone surfer of Santa Cruz.
Well, things were pretty quiet at Steamer Lane, so we left the lone surfer and went in search of other surfing spots up and down the coast, spots where the waves might be a little better. We really didn't know exactly where to go, but we spotted a black hearse with 2 surfboards on the roof and figured they'd know a good spot. So we followed them and ended up at Pleasure Point, one of the premier surfing spots in the area. Once again, there wasn't much surf, but that didn't seem to make any difference. The ocean was thick with surfers. No doubt about it, the good citizens of Santa Cruz take their surfing seriously.
Now, how good is the surfing in Santa Cruz?
Well, this spot right here is one of the premier spots, and a lot of good surfers come out of places like Stewart Peak and First Peak right here. The guys that you see in magazines and guys you see going to the contest and winning them, you know, those guys are right here. People come here from all over the world. It's kind of Santa Cruz is kind of a multicultural center for people just from, you know, the university side of it and also the waves, you know, surfers. We meet surfers from Australia, Hawaii, Peru. There was a statistic that said out of 365 days, there's about 60 non-surfing days here in Santa Cruz and about 300 surfing days.
How much a part of life is surfing in Santa Cruz? Is that what you live, eat, breathe?
Sure.
To be honest with you, yeah.
Does, actually.
I mean,
does he? Tell me about this guy.
Yeah, this guy, he does live and breathe, eat surfing. He needs to get a job. He needs to straighten up a little more, but he's a good surfer.
I got a job.
Yeah, he's got a job.
Yeah.
But he needs to focus his time on other things just besides surfing. But he is a good surfer.
Well, that's the thing, though. The waves, I mean, when I have fun out here, I have so much fun, you know, it just kind of takes over, you know. I just really love it and just can't wait to get out there, you know. And like you say, when it goes flat, I just really can't get it off my mind, you know.
Get depressed?
I just think about the good days. There's been so many good days I've had out here, you know. It's good.
Do you hold your own out there with these kids?
Yeah, they better watch out. Oh, yeah. The older you get, you have not only, you don't have youth on your side, but you got a lot of good knowledge. And also, it keeps you really healthy. It's one of the least injurious sports, you know, like football, any land sport. Like, I just wasted my thumb playing volleyball. I'm giving up land sport, just surfing, save myself for the waves.
So that's what keeps you in shape?
Yeah, oh, yeah, mentally, too. A lot cheaper than a therapist.
Santa Cruz is the thing, you know, surfing, that's what it is.
Now, what do you mean Santa Cruz is the thing?
It's the place to be in Northern California. You know, down south, it's kind of I don't know, it's weird down there, but up here, it's life.
Now, you're going to have a lot of people down south upset at you for saying that.
I don't care.
They always call us Helgs and stuff.
Call you what?
Helgs, Helgies.
Helgies, what does that mean?
Surf grommets, like, little, like,
surf rats. Are you all surf rats?
Pretty much.
Do you like that name?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, my new little surf rat buddies were anxious to get out in the water with their friends. We, on the other hand, headed down the beach to meet an honest-to-goodness Santa Cruz living legend. Now, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but every single surfer we talked with was wearing a wetsuit. And just about every one of those wetsuits was manufactured by O'Neill. And it just so happens that O'Neill is headquartered in Santa Cruz. And Jack O'Neill, the man who is credited with inventing the surfing wetsuit back in the early 1950s, lives in Santa Cruz in a beautiful house right up over the ocean. He had heard we were in town and invited us over to meet his family, including his dog Boris, and to talk a little bit about his famous invention. And in true Santa Cruz style, we decided to climb up on the roof to talk.
Now we got props here.
Yeah.
for this story. We spare no expense in putting these things together. You're the man who started all of this, and
Yeah,
this was it, wasn't it?
That was one of my first suits. Actually, the first thing I did was take a piece of unicellular foam. It was a plastic foam, and I used to put it together with a soldering iron. And in those days, we used to wear kind of what we call a bun hugger, a suit that fits close. And I'd put that on and put the suit on over the top. And that and a girl's bathing hat would make the difference of whether or not it could go in for me, when the water gets below 50 degrees.
Really?
You get those ice cream headaches.
Now, what is this thing? What exactly, because it looks...
What I did here, what we used to do is wear sweaters. We would get a lot of cooling by evaporation. And this foam didn't have the tensile strength to hold up on its own. So what I did, I put some plastic over the top, because then I'd get the water to roll off, and we wouldn't have that cooling by evaporation. This is very old. This used to be smooth, and it's kind of crinkled up. This is one of the first suits.
Well, this should be in the Smithsonian Institute or something like this.
It's like a straitjacket.
What gave you the idea to do this in the first place?
Well, I was cold. And I used to go around to surplus shops, and I'd find this stuff, and the Navy used to have a sheet of rubber, and they'd put long underwear underneath. But when you surf with that stuff, it would come apart, and you get water in there, and you lose buoyancy, and you lose your insulation and such. So it's just something that kind of evolved over many years. Of course, when it started out, the guys from down south, they used to come up here and laugh at us.
For wearing the wetsuit?
Wearing a suit. And the first suits would come down to here, to Bermuda length, and then be free here. And if you wore a long suit, you looked kind of odd. Actually, you looked odd in the Bermuda when they first started. And a full suit was unheard of then. But it's something that just evolved.
Did he try out some of the prototype wetsuits on you all when you were children? Were you all the guinea pigs?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. We have some, actually we have some of the wetsuits still laying around that have the handholds about this big around. And boy, we've been wearing wetsuits since we were 3, 4 years old. Jack used to have us sit on blocks of ice to make sure that they work.
What?
No,
that's how he tested it?
No, this is during promotions and stuff at trade shows. Some of the first trade shows, I don't know if you've seen any of the photos over at the shop there, in our museum and stuff, but shows Jack at some of the first trade shows.
This is during the what's a wetsuit period, and we used to get a wading pool and put a couple tons of ice in it, and then Pat and his friends would sit on the block of ice.
I hope you were well paid for doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, we got to grow up around the ocean and surf all of our lives, and it's been fantastic.
So the surfing tradition continues in Santa Cruz. A tradition started over 100 years ago when native Hawaiians first brought it here. A tradition expanded by those pioneer members of the 1936 Santa Cruz Surfing Club. And a tradition expanded still further in the 1950s with Jack O'Neill's wetsuit. A wetsuit which permitted surfers to surf year-round in cold water. Well, as we end our visit to Santa Cruz, we are faced with a dilemma. Actually, it's the same dilemma we're always faced with when we go somewhere. You see, when we go to a location, we think we know what we're going to be doing. But while we're there, we always find out about 10 or 15 news stories that we'd like to do. For example, right now we're at Seacliff State Beach, a couple of miles south of Santa Cruz. Right out there is the pier, and at the end of the pier is a local landmark. All the locals know it as the Cement Boat. Now, the reason they call it the Cement Boat is because it's a boat and it's made entirely out of cement. It's been here for decades. There's a wonderful, very colorful story behind it. But of course, we're out of time, and we're going to have to come back some other time to do the story on the Cement Boat. As we leave Santa Cruz, as always, we'd like to thank everyone for sharing their stories with us, the surfers and the people down at the Beach Boardwalk. We'd also like to thank you for watching and invite you to tune in again next time. As we continue our search, we don't know where or what we're going to be getting into,
but as we continue our search for California's gold.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and I sure hope you enjoyed this adventure. If you'd like to see it again or share it with your family or friends, or perhaps donate a copy to your local school or library, it's available on video cassette and on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.